At some point in time, there's a favorite candidate, which was Coinbase, because we have a shared vision of the future. We have an institutional focus. So 85% of our business, approximately, give or take, is institutional, which means that everything we do, the platform, the way we do business, the way we service clients is more professional, sophisticated. What Deribit does is 2/3 of our business is options. So if you look at, let's say, October last month, was our best month ever. We traded $266 billion. So we never traded that much. Out of that, let's say rounded, 200 billion is options and 66 billion would be perpetuals and futures and a little bit of spot. So we have more options nowadays. We have Solana, we have XRP, we have gold, we have Bitcoin and ETH. We're looking at expanding the list. But if you look at actual trading volumes as well as open interest, it's purely BTC. And you see that, let's say, performance overall as well. Alts underperform and BTC dominance is at all-time highs. But I think now with Coinbase, there's a whole new level of AI. Coinbase is really heavily invested in AI. So we now have access to, let's say, all the AI tools. You get like daily messages about new tools being launched that can help. There was another announcement recently about like project management tools, patterns. I mentioned before, we have billions of order updates. All of those, that could be patterns, that could be stuff to analyze. All of that is like perfectly suitable for AI.
I was thinking like maybe you can have an AI engine to price options as well. Maybe this is something.
You can have an AI sitting here and talking to you. And in the end, the opportunity with AI, getting your message across, getting your products.
Welcome back, everyone, to Blockcast Show. Today we have an amazing guest, the CEO of Deribit, Luuk Strijers. And today we talked about what does it mean to lead the biggest derivatives exchange in the crypto industry. Luuk told us about the big transaction they had recently with Coinbase, how they're integrating the technology and their business with such a big organization. Also, a favorite episode of mine because we had an opportunity to talk a lot about trading, about liquidity, about market structure. You're going to have a blast and really enjoy this show. My name is Anton Golub. I'm here together with my co-host, Dr. Demetrios Zamboglou. Enjoy the episode with Luuk and have a blast. So, Luuk, welcome to the show. It's really great to have you. And it doesn't happen every day that we have a CEO and executive of a leading derivatives option exchange. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's really a blast. And Demetrios, I know, given your and mine trading background as well, this will be a very strong episode, yes. I think. Yeah.
I mean, it was really hard to get you here, but we did it. so thank you for coming.
I resisted.
So yes, I think it's going to be one of the best ones.
Yeah.
And me and Anton, we're really, really excited because we get to ask you a lot of questions that the crowd wants to get the answers to. Yeah. So let's begin.
Yes. So Luuk, maybe to start very strong, and because we also in the preparation for the show, we were discussing it a little bit. So first to congratulate you on the big transaction, on the being acquired. So congratulations on that. And maybe to start as a first question, I think a lot of people will be curious, how does this process of being acquired actually happen? So do you get like a Telegram message during the night saying, hey, somebody wants to talk to you? Is it like a formal email? How long is this process? How does the due diligence look like? And also maybe kind of what happens after you are acquired, right? Yes. So maybe to start off with like that, and then we can jump into other questions as well.
I think in many situations, the storyline is different, right? So we didn't get a message in the middle of the night. We actively appointed a bank 2 years ago, a bank called FT Partners, to look for liquidity of one of our founders. So we had, so I'm not a founder. I joined in 2019. The company was started in 2016. So the early founders moved back in terms of daily activity over time, handing over running the company to me and the rest of the team, which at some point resulted in them willing to scale down some of their holdings as well. So we appointed the firm to help us out, but that was still pretty close to FTX in the overall derivatives demise and let's say anxiety for investing in crypto derivatives or platforms. So it took some time, and then at some point the election hype started. So once you take the decision to sell shares, you need to do stuff, right? You need so we appointed a firm to do like overall company due diligence. So that takes quite a lot of time. You get a big report about everything you do. We need to activate the viral license.
Is it like a gap analysis what they're doing, and they're telling you like you need to mitigate this? And
we appointed Deloitte. So in Deloitte, in the end, they need to, let's say, everything you do in terms of policies, procedures, finances, everything needs to be verified. So if you say I have whatever 1,000 clients, they will check whether you actually have 1,000 clients.
Okay.
So all the statements you made will be verified. Everything you do, your policies, procedures, the way you pay out, the way your P&L is constructed, everything needs to be verified to make sure that's correct, so that an investor knows that they can rely on those numbers and that it's actually accurate. So all of that takes quite a lot of time, especially if you also have a company to run. So all of the people, the people have other jobs to do. So it's always a conflict in getting their attention. So that takes time. And at some point, the market started changing, and Trump got elected, or before the election. So the market started rallying, and the overall interest started growing. And that's when overall interest grew in firms looking to acquire us, because the IPO hype, and not really the hype that you've seen this year, but in 2024, people were planning to get listed, etc. So at some point in time, we got in touch with Coinbase, and then the due diligence started and the negotiation and all of that stuff. And at some point, there's a signature. And then after the signature and the deal is agreed on.
Can you please tell us a little bit? I mean, you put a sort of a bank to create the whole process. You got your auditor to make sure that everything is correct. And then how does the process evolve? You fly to New York, you meet with the guys, and first, before you start talking about numbers, you talk about what is your vision, what is your mission. So how, because nobody told us the real story about what actually happened.
So in the end, we talked to, let's say, a lot of institutional investors. So either strategic or just financial investors that were interested in buying a smaller percentage simply because they wanted exposure. So you have many different conversations. You have multiple strategic conversations from all different parts of the world, resulting in like a preference. So in the end, of course, there's a financial decision, who's willing to pay most, but also in what currency. Is it dollars, or is it like unlisted shares? Of course, a different story. So you might be paid a lot of money, but if it's like a theoretic valuation, it becomes a different story. So the question is, who do you prefer partnering with, and which currency do you like most? So at some point in time, there's a favorite candidate, which was Coinbase, because we have a shared vision of the future. We've always had an institutional focus. So 85% of our business, approximately, give or take, is institutional, which means that everything we do, the platform, the way we do business, the way we service clients, is more professional, sophisticated, has an institutional angle, and is focusing on angles, also the non-trading angles. Like we were one of the first that had external custody. We were one of the first that had IG certification. We have SOC 2 certification. We have 5 years of audited financials. All of that stuff is not like because we like doing that. It's to make sure that the institutions feel comfortable trading on Deribit. And Coinbase has a similar mindset. The trust element is very important. So Coinbase wants to be the most trusted exchange. So they have the best, let's say, setup when you look at licenses, when you look at audited financials, when you look at quality of the balance sheet, when you look at staff, the ability to have expertise in-house, the ability to custodize assets in the most secure way. All of that's Coinbase's angle. So I wouldn't say we fell in love, but at some point it becomes like that, right? So we saw the potential match, and we saw the shared vision of the future is bringing our product to global scale.
Yes. And what practically, so you kind of described the process of getting there, getting acquired. What happens then now afterwards? So is it all the same? So now it was Luuk at Deribit.com, now it's Luuk at Coinbase. What's the like practical changes or practically different compared to before?
So when I joined, we were with 20 people. So pretty tiny. And we were already pretty decent, but we did that with 20 people. And all of these 20 people, they had multiple hats. So everyone did like multiple things simply because they had to. And at some point you get bigger and bigger and bigger. And also requirements state that you have to do X and some other person has to verify X. So you have to split roles, responsibilities. So when we got acquired, approximately we were with 170 people, which was
still
pretty
very lean.
Small relatively, but big from our let's say historical standards. So we were already like much bigger than we used to be, simply because quality requires like proper segregation of tasks. So then, after the transaction closes, you're welcomed in your, let's say, your new home, and Coinbase has approximately 4,000 people. So where we had, let's say, one specialist, which used to have multiple heads, but at some point was only focusing on one thing, Coinbase would have multiple, which is of course overwhelming because a lot of these people were or are in the US, West Coast and East Coast, a big time difference with Amsterdam and with Dubai, where we...
Apparently now they're moving to Texas.
It's true.
So that's like getting used to. So but the level of quality and the level of knowledge in the organization is extremely high. So Coinbase really employs like rocket scientists and whatever. They have specialists on all levels, on security, on custody, on networking, on systems. But the process is also different because there's many projects and it's about resources and which project gets priority, etc. So it's a different environment, much bigger. But the upside is, of course, also much bigger.
Yes.
Maybe I'll ask another question and then I hand over. So you mentioned that you joined Deribit around 19. How was your journey, of becoming a CEO of a leading option exchange? So what did you do before? What kind of skill set you had to acquire? What would you recommend to young people who are watching the podcast and say, Luuk is such a great guy? Kind of how did this journey came about for you to become a CEO of a crypto exchange, derivatives exchange?
Sure. I'm Dutch, studied in the Netherlands, have a master's from Maastricht University, and started working in Amsterdam in 2004 in the capital market space. So that's fundraising for listed companies, unlisted companies, funds, IPOs, that kind of stuff. I did that for around 6 years. Which was close to Euronext. So Euronext is the Dutch stock exchange. So we were in close contact about whatever listings and trading and that kind of stuff. So and we had a dealing room. So I got interested in the trading element there. And afterwards I joined the company, which was a competitor of Euronext, which was focusing on options and owned by firms like Optiver, IMC, ABN AMRO. Nasdaq, targeting it was an options MTF, which was new back then.
What was the name? Sorry.
Tom, the order machine, which was a platform created to compete in the Dutch option space. We did pretty well, got something like 50% market share, but it was more like a Dutch setup, and we struggled, let's say, expanding that internationally. In 2009 or 10, I joined SGX in Singapore.
Okay.
We know SGX is a very good company.
And I was there for 4 or 5 years, looking after products. So I was responsible for leverage products, ETFs, leverage certificates, warrants, that kind of stuff in Singapore. So anything that's a security, but not a company, as in a listed product, but not a company, which was a lot of fun. And back then I was trading crypto PA, so that's when the hype started, when a lot of people lost money.
You moved from the Netherlands to go to Singapore?
Yeah. So that's and it was a great journey. So it's I loved living there. I still like Singapore a lot. And that was like, so I was in a small company before, so that let's say 25, 30 people, and then moved to Singapore and there was like 1,000 people or something like that. So where decisions were taken quickly, you got the the more bureaucratic setup that any bigger company has with levels and board and decisions and documents and et cetera, et cetera. But my attention was raised in the crypto space. And at some point, I moved back to the Netherlands to join Deribit as chief commercial officer. And Deribit had 20 people back then. And I think a year later, something like that, 2021, I moved to Panama for Deribit. And I was there for 2.5 years, and then we got bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point, I became CEO and moved to Dubai. And we got a license, and we ended up where we are today. So I've been from Singapore, briefly in the Netherlands, back to Panama, and then Dubai.
Awesome.
So when did you fall in love with the financial markets? Was it from the university, or it was?
I had a financial degree, so it's it started. I'm not really sure when or how, but it was. I started with economics. I think I loved it in high school, and one thing led to another.
Were you trading also by yourself before you joined the financial markets? Do you have a?
No, very limited.
Very limited.
Okay.
An occasional trade, but not like active. Just an occasional investment.
Yeah.
For the people out there who doesn't know what is Deribit, would you like to explain a little bit your model, what you guys are doing? Because Anton mentioned is a derivatives exchange. So
options exchange.
I
know you have both perpetuals and options. Yeah, maybe you can explain that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what Deribit does is 2/3 of our business is options. Yeah. So if you look at, let's say, October last month was our best month ever. We traded $266 billion. So we never traded that much. Out of that, let's say rounded, 200 billion is options and 66 billion would be perpetuals and futures and a little bit of spot. If you look at the aggregate number, around 85% is institutional. So whatever metric you use, it's approximately similar. This level is pretty constant. So 2/3 of our business is options, 85% institutional, and that attracts a certain client base. Yes. So options, for the ones that don't know, are pretty niche, as in they're pretty popular in some parts of the world. The US, India, Korea, the Netherlands.
In the US, they're actually very, very popular.
Yeah. But options have different expiries, different strikes, calls, puts. So they have Greeks describing, let's say, their valuation. They're volatility driven, so they're like a different animal than equities or than a perpetual. Perpetual, typically, if you ignore the funding element, people long or short, and that's about it. Options are way more specialty products, which allows you to do much more, but it also comes at a price. It's more complex. You have the ability to combine them. So let's say call spreads, you buy one, sell the other, make the average price cheaper. You're able to focus on like events, elections, and target specific moments in time or price levels. So it gives you like an entire realm of opportunities. But if you log into our platform, you see the long list of options. You see all the Greeks, and some people fall in love with it, and some people are terrified. So our base is not millions of retail clients; it's thousands of people. So the opposite of our peers. But if you look at any traditional firm in any market globally, if you look at the market makers, the banks, the brokers, what they trade is options and futures. And so when you look at the perpetual, it's an amazing product. It's an amazing product for HFT, for short-term positioning. But if you look at long-term positioning, the funding element will distort your P&L. So these traditional firms, they would prefer options and futures, and that's why they come to us. So we're the number one in futures, dated futures, so futures with an expiry date. We have the biggest open interest there. We have the biggest open interest in options. So if you look at the options market, it consists of us. It consists of CME, it consists of Binance, OKX, Bybit, and a bunch of decentralized platforms. We have around 83-84% of the open interest. So despite a lot of competition from the TradFi as well as the crypto space, we dominate that. if you look at the perpetuals, it's the opposite. So that's where
Yes.
mine is OKX. They have a tremendous market share, and we are much smaller. But that's the combination of those 2-3 products. That's us. We're headquartered in Dubai. We have a lot of people in Amsterdam, so our development people are in Amsterdam. So we have around 100 people there. We have an office in Dubai. We have an office in Panama, and then we have people globally.
Awesome. Look, this was amazing how you explained it.
I really want to ask questions about the platform.
Yeah,
How you
same-
create such
same-
a complicated platform?
Yeah, same here actually. So I think like maybe this will be a question appreciated by our audience who are a bit more experts on trading. So you expressed that you have a client base, it's more institutional, also that the products options are very different in terms of what kind of trade you're doing. But maybe to dive a bit like into that. So you explained that from your understanding, most of the trades that people do are more on the long term and expressing their views, kind of how they see the market moving. And then in terms of like the products that they trade, is it still mostly Bitcoin options? Do they mostly trade at the money options, or is it something like far out? Do they actually express their directional view? So meaning they don't hedge out their delta. How does this dynamic work on a platform that captures the most of the markets? You understand the best kind of what they're doing.
It really depends on who you're looking for. So overall, people are relatively bullish. I think more bullish than the TradFi space. So if you look at put-call ratios, the number of puts outstanding versus calls is always like 2 times more calls than puts. That doesn't mean automatically that's way more bullish. It could be strategy, but overall, those ratios are different in the traditional space. Simply because a lot of people believe in the let's say the power of Bitcoin and believe that it will appreciate over time. Options allow you to speculate, so you buy a certain strike giving you leverage, but it also allows you to hedge, so you can also buy protection. So if you look at who does what, asset managers tend to protect their holdings. So they have a lot of assets and some event is coming, some anxiety in the market. So let's say 10th of October recently caused quite some panic, but before that already there was some tension in the market. So you see that the number of puts being bought at those moments increases. You can compare prices of calls. So typically they should be like equal pricing. You see that the relative pricing of put versus call, you call that skew, it changes. So you see the sentiment changing. So you see that before the moment happens. If you look at miners, for example, miners hold Bitcoin or whatever they're doing, but they need to pay the bill as well. So they need to sell Bitcoins that they will mine tomorrow. So they will have a different option. They will hedge their future earnings. If you look at hedge funds, again, all of them will have different strategies. So it could be speculative, it could be just upside exposure or downward, but it could also be volatility plays. If volatility used to be pretty low, it increased nowadays, but it was pretty low. So some of them might expect a reversal. So they would trade options with the expectation that volatility will change. And in terms of like trading pure volatility, that's a difficult product. So that's what options are best for. So different mindset, different trading, and then there's yield, of course. So that people that hold assets, they want to generate yield. So you can stake, of course, but if Bitcoin, you can also utilize it. You sell out of the money options. So if the price doesn't reach the strike level, you pocket the yield.
So you're describing covered call basically for the audience.
So there's all these different strategies, and we as a marketplace, we welcome all. So we facilitate trading of all of different mindsets. And given the state of the market, so now there's more anxiety. We're looking at mid-November. There's more anxiety in the market. So trading strategies are different. And in a few weeks from now, hopefully the market will be different again, and there will be more focus on upside momentum. So every day or every moment in time, the mindset will be different. If you look at 2 years ago, approximately, or 3, you had the ETH merge and those storylines. ETH and BTC were like equals in terms of volumes and open interest. Nowadays, you ask how much is BTC, it's like 80% of it. So we have more options nowadays. We have Solana, we have XRP, we have gold, we have Bitcoin and ETH. We're looking at expanding the list.
Yeah.
But if you look at actual trading volumes as well as open interest, it's purely BTC. And you see that in, let's say, performance overall as well. Alts underperform, and BTC dominance is at all-time highs.
Awesome. Maybe I'll just ask one more question. Both myself coming from market making background, Demetrios yourself as a market maker, how was it in the early days, when the crypto industry was just growing, to come to, these few market makers that you had around and you tell them, hey, you have these crazy volatile assets. Yeah. Let's put options on top of them. How did you convince them to go there and start quoting and making a market and participating? How does it work today? Because we can launch products, we can have different cryptos, but in the end we need the lifeblood of that markets, which in the end is liquidity. So how does that work? I mean, in the big markets, you can go to Jump, Citadel, DRW. I mean, I'm just mentioning some names, but how does it in crypto work? How do you convince these people to come in there and start showing a price in an order book?
Yeah, so in 16, when we started, before my days, this was a real struggle. So it was impossible to price. So Bitcoin went in all directions.
Yes.
Volatility was crazy. Despite those crazy levels, there were some people that believed in it already. Let's say the early adopters, and they started quoting on Deribit. And these are like spin-offs of the large market makers, but not the names you mentioned, but like a handful of them, or a few guys trading in a basement. So they traded like spreads like this. Yeah. Over time, and when I joined, market was slightly changing already. So 2019, everyone said the institutions are coming. That wasn't true. They've been saying that for years, but there were more and more hedge funds that were saying, look, they have a big hedge fund, let's allocate something to crypto as well. So they had like market making desks as well. So over time, spreads narrowed, which in turn attracted more market makers to join. Today, we have way more than we had those days, but in those days already, the market quality was good enough for the volumes we processed. If you look at what we do nowadays, the 266 billion, the 200 billion options, of course, that was never possible in those markets. Spreads were too thin. And still now, we think we can have better quality at times, especially in the far out. So if you trade an option that expires a year from now, liquidity is different than an option that expires tomorrow. So if you look at who trades what, it's typically the first weeks. So it's let's say the weekly options. We have options that expire on Friday. The first month and the first quarter, that's where the bulk of volume is traded. And of course, that's where the bulk of market maker attention is focusing on. But nowadays we get more and more market makers. So if you look at the number of orders processed, it's like a steep line. Every month we process more orders. Of course, it's driven by volatility. But it's also just driven by the number of market makers. So we have billions of orders on a monthly basis that we process. So in terms of platform and infrastructure, that determines our model as well. So we're not cloud-based. We have our data center just outside of London in a village called Slough. It's a big European data center where we have multiple racks with servers where clients can cross-connect. We have co-location. We have the more like typical TradFi setup and less so a crypto setup. Because if you want to process these billions of orders, if you want to send, so let's say Bitcoin moves like today, it moves rapidly. So instead of one product that moves rapidly, we have 1,000 options that move rapidly. So all of those prices, 1,000 options means 1,000 bits and 1,000 asks. So 2,000 updates to be sent by all these market makers. So you need to be able to process lots and lots of orders at the same time, which means that you need state-of-the-art infrastructure. So we have dedicated hardware. We have all of the best switches and all of that stuff to process these loads. So it attracts a different audience. It results in different infrastructure requirements. So it's not easy attracting these people because they know they need to be co-located. They know they need to be fast. But once they do, they can properly compete.
Awesome.
It sounds like a very expensive project. So, so if a young guy finishing a university now wanted to start the options exchange or a perpetual exchange, I'm not sure there is a white label out there. It's a very difficult project because you need to build the modules. the margin engines, the pricing engine. You need to build all of this connectivity with. It's like a very, very difficult project.
It is. And I don't mean that to scare off all the competition. But essentially, that's why Coinbase acquired us, right? So if you look at the number of platforms out there trading perpetuals, the number of DEXs out there, you can get one and plug it in and start tomorrow, approximately. Yes. In the option space is more difficult. You need your market maker buy-in. These market makers won't connect to just any venue because connecting will take development efforts which are scarce. So there's a judgment call, a trade-off. So that's quite a hurdle to enter. Then there's technology, then there's risk, then there's unproven risk. So these new platforms claim to be able to withstand big risk events, but will they actually? And do you trust your dollars or your crypto at those platforms? So yes, the hurdle is high. In terms of traders, the hurdle is lower. So we do see that we have a few like very small traders, like single guys or girls trading on their own and doing decent volumes. So from a trader mindset, yes, you need a low latency setup. So but we can host you on AWS, we can route you, we can help you out quite a bit. So you have cheap co-location. The trading software you need to either buy or write yourself. So these are typically people with some experience from whatever the previous job, but they can do pretty well on their own. But as a platform, yes, and especially nowadays with all the institutional requirements, like I mentioned in the beginning, like ISO, SOC 2, whatever, that stuff requires a lot of people. So the hurdle is pretty high. So to launch a regulated exchange with a license in one or more countries, it's not easy, which pushes our size, I guess. That's why a lot of people come to us.
I think finding a very good chief product officer will also be a very hard job because the guy needs to understand the user experience. He needs to understand the markets. He needs to understand matching engine. He needs to understand all of these options pricing. It's a very, very difficult thing.
Yeah, you're right. So it's a difficult product, and we still struggle with the best way to position our product. So the product is complex, so you can dumb it down and attract a bigger audience, but then you leave out key elements. So if you don't show the Greeks, then you might think it's easier, and it will.
Please
look easier.
show the Greeks.
But the product will not really be the same anymore. So should you do that? Yes or no? How should you graphically show it? The payoffs, how to explain it properly. So yes, we're always looking at ways to improve it. I think we have a pretty nice system, but there's always room for more.
From the product side, do you have a yearly roadmap that is decided from the beginning of what you want to achieve by the end of the year?
Not necessarily yearly, but we do plan ahead. So we have a long list of wishes that we allocate, and we have engineers to build. So we have a monthly release schedule. So every monthly release.
Wow.
Yeah, and then so the platform goes down like 10 minutes.
So you're on an agile kind of system.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah. So we deploy on a monthly basis, which could be servicing clients, so a new product, a new feature, or could simply be in the background, making sure that trades are processed faster or some changes somewhere in the system. But on a monthly basis we release, and that's how we allocate. So we know already that the January release will contain, let's say, these 10 things. That could be 11 or it could be 9, so we could always tweak. But we don't really know what's going to be in the May release. So we plan ahead multiple months, but not really that far. So not 6 months, but we do have long projects that we know that is difficult and more tricky, so that will take more time. But when it's exactly going to be released is to be seen. And now with Coinbase, of course, we're going to integrate on multiple levels. So there's the wish list has quadrupled in size, and Coinbase wants us to change things. And of course, we like to receive flow from Coinbase. So we need to connect the systems. We need to look at KYC. We need to look at AML. We need to look at wallet infrastructure. So everything that was like part of our model historically needs to be reviewed and should be looked at in a different way, because Coinbase, of course, wants to align it across the various platforms they operate.
And is there a committee that does the priorities of what you launch?
Yeah. So we have a few people that look internally, and now we have like a massive group of people.
You should have scientists nowadays.
Yeah, we have a lot of them together with Coinbase, looking at the opportunity and what can we do and when can we do it, and how many developers does this need, and are these people available?
Wanted to ask you a question in terms of the products that we as an industry offer, and perhaps like this convergence between traditional finance and crypto industry. So in traditional finance, one of the most relevant metrics, but also then products, is the VIX index, right? The volatility index. And on top of that, you can then trade the volatility index through other products. In the crypto industry, I know we have CVIX, or I read about it many times, but I think at the moment we haven't really created something of that sort where maybe we could refer to it saying, look, volatility based on CVIX or something similar is elevated or less elevated. So how do you feel about this? Because this is really a product or a creation that comes from the option space. So do you see something like that? And then also
we have it. We have DVOL. So we look at the volatility of the market in terms of it's like, let's say, comparable to VIX, the same methodology we call DVOL, as in Deribit Volatility. It's extracted from the options market. It's essentially the only way you can do it. So we publish this on our website, and you can see it in all the pages. We always show the DVOL is at a certain level, which is like a gauge of the market. And we have DVOL futures, so like pure volatility. But trading volume is limited. So we have struggled. So you asked me earlier what is like the struggle and where can you do better. We have not been able to sell this product properly yet, but it's a very interesting product. So we didn't take it off the shelf yet, because it should at some point raise a proper interest, because it's pure volatility is difficult to trade. So we have DVOL futures, and at some point, if it gets popular enough, we want to launch DVOL options as well. But that's vol of vol. That's like an entirely new level.
We're entering the next level complexity.
So we're a bit too soon for that. But volatility itself, the DVOL futures, is interesting. So yes, we have. Let's say a handful of professionals looking at it and trading at it, but not like decent size yet.
Okay. And what are your thoughts then also as well of expanding options products, but across kind of, if you go on the coin market cap, so you maybe scroll a little bit downward, is there something there as well you see that is a part of your roadmap, or is this still too volatile, too illiquid?
I think if you look at any TradFi exchange, you would have like the tier one product, which would be the index. Euro stocks, HSI, S&P. And then you have the single stocks. If you look at crypto, it would be BTC would be the core product, BTC and ETH, and then you would have the single names. I think we have a decent level of interest in XRP and Solana, and there could be a handful extra names, 5 more. But in terms of offering products, it's always tricky, because unlike spot or unlike a perpetual, you need to cover quite a few instruments. So you have, let's say you launch a limited product shelf, it would still imply daily options, weekly options, monthly, perhaps a quarterly. So let's say instead of 1,000 products, you would have 100, 200 products. These products need to be quoted at all times. So you need multiple market makers. And these market makers, when there's an event happening, will focus on what makes them the most money, or where they're most exposed. So they will drop everything and focus on, let's say, Bitcoin or 10 other names, but they won't focus on thinly traded options, which is what you do want them to do, because as a platform, we want to guarantee liquidity when at all times, not only today, but also tomorrow when the market might crash. So people are able to, when you buy an option, you don't need to keep it until expiry. You can also sell it before. So that needs to be liquidity. So for us, the most difficult trade-off is, can we get sufficient liquidity commitments today as well as tomorrow from multiple market makers that will sign and say, look, I will be there and I will start quoting. So yes, there should be, let's say, 5 to 10 single stock options, as in the whatever the coin market cap top 10. But is there sufficient interest today already from the market to trade those? when BTC dominance is at all-time highs and also underperforming, it's a difficult pitch. So I think over time there will be more, but we will do it very gradually. And then when you launch, let's say, limited number of expiries, pending success, you can expand. So at some point we might have Solana XRP up until a year out.
Yes.
But now the momentum is not really there yet. And once you have 10, you can also create like index options, and you can create a whole new level of different instruments.
I think there is an unofficial rule that if the company is not at the 1 billion market cap, there shouldn't be options on it.
Yeah, but look at the top 10 on coin market. They're all like multiple billions.
Yes,
so
multiple billions.
That rule is like easy match, but a typical coin with some promise is easily worth multiple billions nowadays. But the liquidity, so the fact that the coin has a certain market cap doesn't mean that the trading is equally.
That's why you should be looking also at the liquidity.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Luuk, then also just to ask you a bit of, because I think we're diving deep into the markets, to ask also maybe a bit of a different question is, so you've been now here in the UAE, in Dubai, for more than 2 years, yeah?
Yep.
How did you accustom to the country, to the city? How is it to work here? What do you think about, your experience here? How does it work with the local stakeholders, regulators? What's your thoughts about UAE?
Also, is it easy to attract talent? We also
yes. Also, how do you see the talent pool here? So, what are your thoughts here?
I love Dubai. So, I think from the moment we arrived till now, we as a company or personally felt really welcome. So, the regulators keen, the overall, let's say, city or the country is welcoming, and adjustment levels are low. So very international.
Yes.
I have kids or schools or whatever. All of that stuff is available in good quality. Living is nice. So I have the luxury that we have a foreign office as well. So I travel actually quite a lot these days.
Okay.
So I'm not here all the time. So in the peak heat moments, I don't necessarily need to be here, and I can work in Amsterdam or wherever. So if you exclude, let's say, the 2 peak months, you really have, like, climate-wise and lifestyle-wise, a really pleasant country.
Now it will be difficult. It will be Miami or Netherlands.
Yeah, so the Netherlands. No, Amsterdam is in the summer months is really nice.
Beautiful.
So now it's terrible. So I'm glad to be here. But in the summer months, it's really an amazing place to be. But so overall, Dubai is really nice as a country, and then as a company where our client base is in between Asia and Europe.
Yeah.
Dubai is exactly at the heart.
Yes.
So travel-wise, but also call-wise, as in whoever I need to speak to, I can do it within normal hours.
Yes.
So I can fly to Singapore in 7 hours, to Amsterdam in 7 hours approximately. Yes. So it's a pretty practical place to live. So now all of that is changing because of the new US angle.
Exactly.
So we've never been able to onboard US persons, so we don't have a client base there, but now we have a US owner. And then West Coast, for example, versus Dubai, that's 12-hour time difference. So that's slightly different now. But overall, no, very happy to be here.
Yes. And what do you think about the local ecosystem and activities? I mean, these days when there's like Token 2049 here or Abu Dhabi Finance Week, it's like the whole world seems to converge here.
I think it changed a lot since I lived here for 2.5 years now. And you see the number of events as well as people and companies growing rapidly. So we're based in one central. There's multiple exchanges around us. Exactly. It's pretty crowded already. So there's all kinds of firms located close to us. Token is a big event where the second version, I'm not sure how many people attended, but thousands of people.
Yes,
so people fly in, and it's really part of the, let's say, the global crypto map these days, because of events, because of platforms being domiciled here, and because of trading firms joining. So you asked, how is it to get talent? I think that's changing as well. More and more people are very much interested to live here globally, or just, let's say, other platforms. The talent hub is growing. Is it up to the same standards as perhaps the US or Asian? Not yet. But rapidly changing in our favor, I think. So it gets easier and easier.
Okay. And do you have any plans in the future when it comes to events, to sponsor something, organize something? And the reason why I ask you, because for Token 2049, you had one of the side events.
best event.
The best event.
I was there.
Yeah, I was there. And just to say as well, I still do remember, like, you had this machine where you have to kind of move it around and then you grab the ball. How many balls did I get? Like, they were, I have the hoodie, I have the cap, I had everything. So do you plan to organize something on the side to bring together your stakeholders, clients as well? How do you?
We do more and more globally as well as locally. So we had a padel tournament this week. We do that in multiple cities globally. We have expiry drinks here and there. We have the token events in Singapore and Dubai. Abu Dhabi Finance Week is coming up, so we host a few events there. So we try to not organize like massive events for thousands of people, but the focus is always on our core audience and make it more personal and more social. So yes, we'll keep expanding that, and we have like the best merch in town, so we keep on inventing ourselves and offer new stuff. But yeah, it's the green is gone nowadays, and blue is our new color. Okay. So all the stuff that you have needs to be upgraded now.
I want to say a big thank you to your marketing team, because when you do events, it's one of the few events that if you come with a guest, they will not say you cannot enter. They will try to accommodate everyone. They will try to everyone feel special. And then this thing brings a lot of trust and a very big brand awareness for what your company is building, especially in this region. So you have a very good team.
Thank you. That's what we try to build indeed. And it should be like a low hurdle, welcoming feeling, as in trading on the platform, but also coming to one of our events. That's always been the goal.
Awesome. Look, we talked a lot about trading, about markets, about exchanges. We also wanted to ask you, just because I'm curious. So if you would go back in time now and you would not go into trading, if you're not going to capital markets, what would, Luuk in this alternative universe do? What was this other thing, if you ever doing? Would you be into sports? Would you be a doctor, a lawyer?
Firefighter, maybe.
Firefighter. I mean, but you do that a lot in any company startup. So how would an alternative universe look like for you, or something that you did in the early days when you were young? Yeah.
So I think what attracts me in the crypto space is the fact that it's new and like unpaved territory. It's stuff can change, and together with the industry, we've built it in a certain direction. So I think
experimental, I would say.
It's So, but especially the earlier you got, I think we were determining the direction of the industry. Not me, but like a bunch of us together. I think that's the fact that it didn't exist for 100 years, but was new is what made it compelling. I think if I would do something different, it would be like a similar space, like whatever AI or something that's new and which could robotics and the new things that will determine what the world will look like in some years from now is what's compelling. I think also what made this interesting. So we've had quite some things happening to the industry and to the platform over the years. So we were far from perfect. We also had like our issues, like any other platform. We had a bankrupt shareholder. We had ups and downs, which made it a pretty interesting ride. And I think the fact that we experienced this together as a group of people within Deribit, but also as a group of people within the industry, is pretty exciting. So I think the more years people worked in the space, you know that they experience like similar stuff, and that's pretty exciting as well.
Should we talk a little bit, Anton, about the elephant in the room, AI?
You actually, Luuk mentioned it, so but I leave it to you to fire away.
AI. Are you using it? Are you looking at it? Do you have a head of AI or a chief AI officer?
AI officer, yes.
We've been using it quite a bit within Deribit as just to operate. We're looking at it from a customer support level to answer like the basic questions, looking at a bunch of documents, and then having support be using AI to be faster and be more effective. But I think now with Coinbase, there's a whole new level of AI. Coinbase is really heavily invested in AI. So We now have access to, let's say, all the AI tools. You get like daily messages about new tools being launched that can help. There was another announcement recently about like project management tools. Coinbase is really a big adopter, and we have to get accustomed to which tools work best for us. But I think it's pretty powerful. So they've a lot of stuff we do is similar, right? So we look, for example, we market monitoring. We get alerts.
Yes.
We get thousands of alerts. You need to look at these alerts, what happened, and you can discard them or you investigate them.
Yes.
Something fishy might be happening. You have the obligation to look at it. All of those things can be done using AI, and Coinbase is pretty advanced there. The same with onboarding, with KYC, with AML, with all of the stuff that you do thousands of times. You can have that done more efficiently. So I think there's massive opportunity for us. Anything that has patterns, I mentioned before, we have billions of order updates. All of those, that could be patterns, that could be stuff to analyze. All of that is like perfectly suitable for AI.
Yeah. I was thinking like maybe you can have an AI engine to price options as well. Maybe this is something.
You can have an AI sitting here and talking to you. In the end, the opportunity with AI, getting your message across, getting your products explained, getting, let's say, an option and the specifics of an option explained in Greek or in whatever language, for old people, for young people, with a different angle. All of that stuff can be automated using AI. I think the opportunities are almost endless what we will be able to do with this.
Okay. Luuk, maybe also to ask, you touched upon it, there's going to be some events, some things happening. So if there's somebody in the audience, who wants to say, okay, I want to see Luuk or hear you talk or meet you, kind of what does your plan look like for the next couple of months, or where do you plan to be? What events you plan to attend? Where are you speaking? How can people connect with you if they want to meet you in person, obviously?
So I typically go to the larger events globally. So I would go to Token in Singapore, in Dubai, go once a year to Hong Kong, to London, whatever the key events I try to attend. And then there's a lot of back and forth with Coinbase nowadays. So we need to integrate, and the integration will take quite some time. But besides that, we're based in Dubai, so I hope to be here as much as possible. But
so
sadly,
they need to go to one central and hide behind the bushes.
wait, No, I'm pretty easy to reach, so online, etc. But travel has changed. So being part of a big company, and we're trying to get a license in Europe, integration. It forces us to work more closely together, which also means traveling more.
Okay. And are you active on X or on some other social media?
Hardly.
Now that he's part of Coinbase, Anton, he has to be active on X.
Well, exactly. I was just saying, I think that you're the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Amson. He's very active.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of more people from their team who are very active. Is this a way for you to communicate in general, or are you more?
No, we have a team for that. So I myself, I'm not the most active on X. I'm active on all the other communication apps internally, and Telegram and Slack and all of that stuff, which distracts me from my X activities, but Brian is perfectly able to do that.
Yeah, he's very strong. Okay.
I wanted to talk a little bit Abu Dhabi Finance Week.
Yeah.
So unofficially, you said you guys are preparing something there. Because me and Anton, we always say is the best event of the year, and the year closes amazing with Abu Dhabi Finance Week. Can you share anything of what you're lining up there, or is it still a top secret?
No, it's not top secret, but it's not that big. So we do a few events, a breakfast session, a few dinners and lunch sessions. That's what we typically do. The event you referred to in Dubai, the large one, we don't have that for Abu Dhabi. So Abu Dhabi is not our home base, Dubai is, but we do recognize it's an amazing opportunity where people meet and come together. So we organize a few events. We have drinks on one evening, and so one bigger event and a few smaller events. So it's definitely a great place to be, but it's not like one of our key event moments.
Okay. Look, just to tell you, this is Demetrios' Cypriot way of inviting himself to an event. So.
And officially, I'm invited in all the events of Deribit.
You should be on the list.
Yes. I'm on the list. But it's been amazing to have you here with us. So many questions that are answered nowadays. For the audience, I would like to say that when I talk to Luuk, I do not know if he's in New York, if he's in Dubai, or if he's somewhere in Europe, which maybe I shouldn't mention. But he's doing a lot of great things for the industry, and I'm delighted to have him here with my co-host Anton.
Yeah. So it was really a pleasure. And I also have to say, you were our first guest where we talked a lot about trading, about market structure, about liquidity, which is a dear topic to all of us. So it was really a blast. And just to tell you, Luuk, like one of definitely my favorites. But, having my trading background, so it was really great to have you. And thank you very much for sharing all of it, your insights or your knowledge. And also, I think as well, it was very eye-opening for me, kind of what's coming for you, right? Because you had this big transaction, you're integrating a lot of things. So hopefully we welcome you, in some months or a year where we have more products, more tokens. So hopefully, we have you as well in the future.
Thank you for having me. And yes, that's the plan. So the goal is together with Coinbase to really kickstart growth beyond current levels and reach as well. So I'll gladly come back a year from now and I'll demonstrate you
the upgrade. Yeah.
Should be PowerPoints presentations. It's definitely an amazing journey you guys are engaging on, and the world needs to know about this for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Luuk, and it was really a pleasure to have you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was one of my favorites. I hope you had a blast. Subscribe to the podcast and to the channel, and see you all soon.